It's figuring out
Where do you see yourself on that world? Are you more
today.
actually? Yeah, is that a fluid thing for you?
I'm poly and pan. So I've got my husband, I've got girlfriends, I've got boyfriends, I've got date friends that are non-binary. My husband identifies as non-binary, uses he, him, they, them.
All 4 of those?
Yeah,
God
it's mostly
damn.
to be understanding for other folks when they're being.
That is some sort of projection. There is, hey, I identify, outside of normal. So that's kind of like a ping of the radar. Like,
Yep.
okay, this person is.
But it gives people space to say he without going.
Yeah.
And so, everyone handles that differently. I'm she, her, and so it's pretty straightforward. But, I have partners that are they, them.
What are you assertive with your pronouns? And
If I have to be.
okay, and what time in your life did that start to become? Because pronouns has become a recent,
That was
oh my
pretty
God.
early.
Okay.
Like I said, I was firm with my parents when I was 3. I was like, I'm a girl.
Wow.
Get it right. And they're like, no, here's some video games. Here's some, all this other stuff. And jokes on them. Gamer girls are hot. But
Gamer girls are hot.
yeah.
One of the videos, how long has that been now? 2 or 3 episodes.
What's that?
The frog issue. Or the frog.
I think you told me about that.
So this person, I'm not going to put him on, but they were advocating.
Oh, I totally forgot what you're talking. I thought you were talking about the chimpanzee fucking the frog, but you're talking
Same
about that
episode.
crazy person.
Same episode. Well, I don't know. Are we going to figure out if this person's crazy or not?
Yes.
So this person was representing a group that they were not a part of.
Okay.
But they're like, hey, if you want to be if you want to, I don't know the word I'm looking for.
They were.
If you want to be in with a person that is identified outside of the typical pronouns,
Okay.
identifies themselves as frog self, as
Okay.
in the reptile or no,
yeah,
amphibian.
amphibian.
Here's how you go through the whole thing, and they showed you the vernacular of like setting that up.
Okay.
What's your views on that?
So I would say, to start off, being kind is free.
That's true.
None of us have to. None of us are, at least in this room, as far as I'm aware, are psychiatrists or psychologists.
I don't
So-
know the time, patience, or maturity.
We're not really equipped to discuss whether or not they have any kind of mental illness. So we'll put that one on the table here, because nobody really. It's like, do you have the right to tell somebody else that they're unworthy as a human
I
being?
mean, we're in a glass house. We're starting to question people's mental health.
Right?
I
So-
mean, all of us have been into a psych
Oh, yeah.
ward.
Yes, but that's specifically why I can.
So ask yourself this: does it harm anyone?
Mm-mm.
Would a person be more concerned about that if they were less afraid of it?
Possibility.
You think so? Because I think most people, if they were to look at it, they would react one of 2 ways. They'd be like, "Oh, okay," or "Well, what's wrong with them?" We
I
want
think
to
that's
rush.
people's default there. What's wrong with them?
We want to
Okay.
rush to the judgment of somebody else because we want to feel like we're better than they are. We want to feel as though we're somehow normal and that person's not normal. And so we're okay. They're not. I'm sane. They're crazy. I'm right. They're wrong.
I'll say
And
that.
just put it right there on the line. And that's when you ask yourself, okay, who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck if this
At the
person's
end of
a
the
fraud?
day, that's the real question.
Who gives a fuck? Is it dangerous for you? Are you allergic to frogs?
Nah.
Okay. Are you concerned that a person would ever, I don't know, ribbit at you? Who cares?
That might be a secret turn on for me. I don't know.
We don't have to agree with everything we don't understand.
I think my biggest hang up was not in that person wants that. I think it's the demand that the outside world, outside of that person's world, conforms so quickly. Because I think one of the big issues that we have societally is that the LGBT community is seen as being so rigid. Is because you mentioned when you see somebody attempting, okay, I fucked up, accidentally called you he, but I'm trying.
Yeah.
they don't have that layer in their understanding.
Not everyone
The
does.
conservative,
Some people do.
is like, oh, the LGBT community demands that we are perfect on everything. So
Yeah.
when you throw the frog thing in there, it's like, okay, this is only going to fuel that right side that's so binary in their thinking.
Yeah.
So
And they do it to themselves. I mean, the whole litter box thing was just a complete fucking
nothing
left
burger.
field nothing burger.
Yeah.
But again, it's them. What are their genitals doing? Are they urinating in the wrong spot?
Did you see? I think it was Arkansas. I saw this 2 weeks ago. It was I believe a person that was trans was also doing medical care for the entire state of, I believe, Arkansas.
Okay.
First question off the bat from
I
this
saw that.
idiot was, what do you identify as? And I believe the person said she. The very next question was, do you have a penis?
You see, you start off by answering the first question with, how is it relevant?
Yeah.
Why do we care? We're not getting to those questions anymore with these people. Okay, so here's a random person who you probably can't even tell me what their middle name is that identifies as frog. Okay. Do I have to agree or disagree? Do I have to have an opinion on that? Do I have to have a feeling on that? Because I don't know that person. I don't know their family or their friends. I don't have to feel a way about how anyone treats them unless someone treats them poorly in front of me, in which case we're going to have words. Not because I support or condemn them, but because there's no reason for them to be mistreated for something that costs. They're not asking anyone for $10 million. They're not asking that someone build, a frog pond outside of the bar to accommodate them. It's not like anything like that.
Yeah.
So we got to ask ourselves, why the fuck do we give a shit?
At the end of the day, that's what we should have said.
No, but see, but I give a shit
about that guy.
No,
Like,
I said build the camp. I said specifically build the camp.
Yeah, you said one of the most horrific things that's been said on the
Yeah,
fucking
but now
podcast.
you took it to the negative place. I said just make it a summer camp, whatever. Get some therapy. But see, my thoughts on that is this. It's not that it is positive or negative. It's the childlike desire for over need to be for others to change on your behalf so you feel about yourself. They want you to affirm their self-esteem, and in doing so, there's a demand placed on you that I have to talk to you about a way when you're not even there.
so you can choose not to interact with them.
Well, right, then that's what I do. But
So-
when you publicly say, if you're a public person and you say, this is what I demand you call me, then in the same way, my rights are, I don't give a shit about you. I'm not going to call you anything. I don't care. You're not in my lexicon.
And see, that's
so-
different.
Right.
It's different to say I'm not going to call somebody anything than it is to say I'm going to call them crazy.
Well, but some people are crazy. And I think that's the problem too, is
But
if we don't acknowledge that.
I think
if
we're
we-
all crazy. It's just
Yeah.
some of us get caught.
Correct. But some of us are dangerous crazy versus just normal crazy. And I think the difference is, like when you were saying some of us are afraid, I'm not afraid. I'm totally abnormal. I own my abnormality and I'm okay with it. And so I can recognize
know.
other abnormality.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think that if you're afraid of someone's frog gender,
Yeah, but see, that's not a fear to be. Annoyance is
See, I
different
don't-
than fear.
I don't have to be annoyed at that person. That person
I see.
doesn't control the way that I feel.
Oh no, they don't. They don't
I
control the way I
think
feel.
though,
It's just like, ugh.
it's not as much whatever stance you want to take on that.
Yeah.
It's that the social media has the ultimate cancel part of. I think that's where people really get buttered. Is if I don't do what this person's asking, I decide to be strongly worded and this,
Right.
that, and the other. I think that's where the outrage comes from too. It's
But
not
is
as much as like, oh, you want to be called a frog person. It's like, if I
But
don't
is-
call you a frog person, my social media footprint's gonna be
Not
completely
even that.
ruined.
There's a moral demand.
So we choose who we're going to associate with.
Mhm.
If a Nazi was standing there and they said, I want you to call me Herr Hitler, I could say, sure. And I could associate with that. I could agree to go with that. Or I could say, fuck that. And I would associate with the folks that don't go with that. So what I'm getting at is this, is it's still a choice. If you choose not to respect what that person is asking for, that's a choice that you're willing to make.
Mm-hmm.
And you're willing at that point to associate with whoever else makes that choice. You can't complain about it afterwards.
Yeah.
You don't get the option to say, well, they put me in a terrible choice. No, they didn't. They literally live across the country. They didn't make you choose anything. You can choose not to even address them. You can choose not to give them the time of day. You can
That's the thing,
choose
too. As soon as you step into social media and have an opinion on that, you're already...
But you made a choice.
You made your misstep right there.
You made your choice.
You could have said all that shit to yourself.
But yeah, you could have just not cared. Does it
Yeah.
affect your day?
That's
or
why you
your-
own it.
Or your retirement plan
Yeah.
or your kids or anything? No, it doesn't. It's somebody who's like, hey, if you're going to talk to me, understand that frog is my gender.
Yeah.
I don't have to understand it and I don't have to care. And if I don't interact with that person, then why do I need an opinion
Well,
on
I
it?
think another problem
Because we're
is-
comedians.
Oh,
we
yes.
need opinions on everything.
but to be fair, right? And I had this conversation with a friend of mine.
Hold down the podcast.
Yeah, I had this conversation with a friend of mine back home, and she's in a trans relationship, and we were having a conversation about like the if you really want to facilitate change, when you overstep and you go into the things of the neo pronouns for the attention seeking,
Yeah.
that makes it harder for a person like me who's very middle of the road on things to communicate with the people that are taking it too far and be like, yo, it's not like that. Like, you need to stop going that far. And people are not that way. And what happens is, as I'm sure you're aware, is the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
It does.
So what ends up happening, and I find this a lot in many activist communities, is that instead of reining in the people that take it way too far, they're just like, oh, there's a place for every voice. And it's like, no, there's not. Not every voice can be heard, but not every voice should be considered. And I can say that as a person who lived with mentally ill people as well. Like,
Yeah.
for instance, there's a gentleman, I won't say his name. When I was institutionalized, he was one of the kindest people I ever met.
Yeah.
But he was in there because he brutally murdered his wife with an axe.
Well, I just walked
Dur-
into a hot spot of the conversation. All right.
He did it. He
Okay.
did it with. He had a PTSD episode,
Okay.
and he had a flashback.
Okay.
Woke up, and this is of course after like the first initial year, like the day of, oh my god, the guy across the street murdered his wife with an axe, or across the hall.
Yeah.
You know, for me, it's like, oh.
Okay.
And it turned out he had a flashback, and he remembered nothing, and he woke
Mhm.
up with his wife, you know, in his arms.
Yo.
Yeah. And that being said, to me it was like, okay, I won't take his consideration when he wants to talk about whether or not I should be in a healthy relationship, and he's got the ways to cope for me. But I will take his thoughts on what war can do to a man, or what schizophrenia can do to a person, because every person has a thing that they can talk about that they're relevant in that perspective, in that certain field.
My question is,
Yeah.
do you find him responsible for it?
Do I find him responsible for it?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
if he had a flashback and killed his wife,
Yeah,
is he responsible for that?
Uh,
Because if he's not, then why wouldn't you take his relationship advice? Maybe they had a perfectly wonderful and functioning relationship, and dude had a flashback and killed her in the middle of the night, but they loved each other deeply.
yeah, but he was schizophrenic. So the reason why I wouldn't take his advice on that is because of the fact that he dealt
He's
with paranoid,
schizophrenic.
because he had paranoid delusions on
Okay.
top of that.
Okay.
And so that's what I mean by there is a place for people to speak, because people are not one dimensional, as I mentioned earlier. I don't like the one dimensionality of people of the thing.
I think we just need to be careful who we assign mental illness to. Because, like, you know, it's really easy to say that in that individual's case, they're diagnosed. You know that.
Yeah.
They're diagnosed with schizophrenia. They're diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder. These were all direct causes of the action.
Mhm.
What was Frog diagnosed with?
Well, I wouldn't say Frog was diagnosed with anything besides seeking attention.
But we would call them crazy.
I wouldn't say. I
You
would
said it
To
earlier.
be
no, no, no,
fair, the
right.
video we're quoting, though, is not directly from that community. It was a...
Because there is no community of frog people.
Well, the video is based off a middle person saying, oh, if you want to be
Right.
with
They were-
people that identify with
Right.
frog.
Well, they
Yeah.
like to do the neo pronoun thing, and what you missed earlier.
That's
is
what it was.
What I said was that The issue with the neopronoun thing is it takes it too far in such a way that it becomes, and yeah, we can say the term crazy. I would rather say crazy than mentally ill, because mental ill is a legitimate thing, and crazy is like you're going out of the realm of abnormality. I don't have a negative connotation or denotation for it, so it's not. I don't say it in the same way that other people are like, that's a crazy dude who's going to throw poo at me. No, it's like you're doing some weird shit, and that doesn't mean you're a bad person, but I'm going to be like, yo, that's fucking weird. You know, like I remember somebody gave me shit online because there was this my buddy who's a comic. He posted something where it was like, I saw this 6'8" trans person with a parrot on their shoulder, and I was staring, and I thought, what's wrong with me? And I was like, nothing. They fucking had a parrot on their shoulder. Like, that's fucking weird. Like, that doesn't just, and they're 6'8". Like, no percentage of people are 6'8". So really, like, if you're staring at, I love fucking pirates. Maybe I'm staring because I wanted to see, could this parrot fucking talk? Like, we look at the things that are outside of the norm, and it doesn't necessarily have to be negative. And now I know that I am outside of the norm on that, and I accept that. Like, I accept that I'll walk into a situation, there'll be a bunch of weird shit going on, and I'll just call it what it is, but I have no moral value placed on it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess what I would say is, I want to be really like on how I word this.
Yeah, be articulate.
We're not the ones you have to be. It's Ori.
What I would say is, it's not the folks that choose neopronouns' responsibility to help you understand. It's not their job. It's not on them to make a better world. Okay? It's on the people who are making a mistake to fix it.
But that's the problem, right? Because they're saying to make the world better for me, you have to do this thing that's completely outside of the norm for the world to be better.
Totally free and cost you nothing.
Yeah.
And doesn't require you to,
but
to
it
care.
Does. But
you can say, hey, frog, what's up? Without having to feel like your God is going to send you to hell for it.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't cost you anything. So if it was something like, hey, hand me over the keys to your car, you know how you can make me happy is hand me the keys to your car, I could understand that.
Right.
But when they're asking for something that's just a difference of respect, when it doesn't cost anything, when it doesn't demand anything from you, sure, you can say it's abnormal, but again, we don't have to agree with the things we don't understand.
Yeah.
You don't have to agree with something to respect it. I can respect an individual even if I don't agree with a lot of the things that they believe in, simply because I know that they're more than those things. I know that they're more than that one belief. I know that they're more than that one pronoun. That's somebody's kid. You know, that might be someone's parent. That's someone's family. That's someone's friend.
Yeah.
They matter to someone. But we want to put them in these categories of they don't matter. They're crazy. They're mentally ill. They don't matter. We can't trust them. We shouldn't believe the things that they have to say because, you know, transgenderism is an illness or frog is an illness we can put those things into categories. But the real reason we're categorizing them isn't to help them. It's not to make things better for them.
No.
It's because we're afraid of something we don't understand.
Yeah.
And we have to put it in a box in order to feel like we're safe.
Or it's it's to navigate the world with ease.
Is
You
it
know?
though? I
I mean, if you think
wouldn't
about
it be easier just to say, okay, frog?
No.
Like I'm just
It would
saying,
be-
wouldn't it be easier just to agree with that?
it would
For
be
us,
easy, it would be easy for me to go, all right, and then just go away. Because that's what I would do. Because
you can do that too.
yeah. And you know, like
But we're in a year where moral stands have to be made.
well, and not even that, but the issue I have with things like that is not even as I said, it's for the attention and the easy grab of a false uniqueness.
People want to believe that. They want to believe that there's this trend now with all these kids becoming trans or becoming furries or becoming anything else. They want to believe that it's a trend that has to do with acceptance. Oh, it's the cool thing in college. No, it's not. I didn't spend 5 years in a psych ward because it was cool.
Yes, but that being said, though, you existed in a time where there was much less acceptance, right?
Yeah.
And we know, and you know that. So the world,
folks didn't walk up to me and make me trans.
Correct.
It wasn't something
Correct.
that someone did to me.
Correct. However, we can still say that social norms are created by society,
Yeah.
and people seeking affirmation will attempt to, so just like every metalhead that goes to the metal concert is going to wear the metal shirt,
Yeah.
right? And so what's going on is, and this is why I have an issue, and it sounds bad because, again, I have the issue not because I have a particular fear or care. I have an issue because it's almost making a mockery of the legitimate struggles that need to go on, that we need to face in a way. Because if I start giving a shit about your neo-pronouns, then I'm not giving a shit about your homelessness. I'm not giving a shit about the fact you can't get a job.
I think you can do both of those things. They're not mutually exclusive.
No.
I don't think that those are things that you
No,
can't both
but you're
be
talking
doing.
about it on an individual level, and I'm talking about this in the broad speaking of a societal norm, right?
Well, I mean,
If I'm trying to pull society to move towards more of an acceptance, it's easier for me to say, hey, let's discuss the problem with gender roles without you start throwing out non-species specific titles that you need to in order for me to be a good person. Because that's the requirement is, as you said, well, why won't you respect me?
but again, it's
if you
not
d-
their responsibility.
But
Like,
it's also not our responsibility to affirm them either. And that's the issue is I have just like you have no responsibility to.
It's a choice.
Correct.
I mean, if you want to hang out with Nazis,
Well-
if that's what
But
you
see-
want to do.
But see,
you
that's
could-
the problem, though, is when people say things like that, then it delegitimizes.
I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Like,
right. But,
if it's easier for you to walk away than just respect a person,
yeah,
when it doesn't cost you anything to do so, because your ego is big enough that you can't just go with it, that it won't let you get past your own ego to say, okay, well, even though this doesn't cost me anything, I'm still going to flip this dude off and say, fuck him, because I don't know
So
him
does it cost
anything.
you anything to say that Jesus is your Lord and Savior and you'll go to hell without him?
No.
Okay, and do you do that?
Sometimes.
That's weird.
I mean, people pay me for it.
Well, I think
okay.
what you're getting at though is palpability to because we're talking about a far right movement. We're trying to
I'm not
bring
even
them
far right. It's just 90s conservative
Yeah,
right. You know, where
just
they were like
closed-minded
eh.
people.
Yeah.
What you're talking about is the like making it palatable to bring those people closer to center. Instead of starting with the frog issue, because the frog issue has multiple things. It's grammatical, like because in our school system, it's like, all right, there's he, she, and then there's the grammatical use of that. And it's when you start throwing in the their, thems, you're already starting to make it a little grammatically weird. And then when we start throwing in the frog self and stuff, we're starting to make it weird. I think what JJ is getting at is the palatability is like, all right, let's get to the real issue of like the homelessness and everything. And let's kind of just move past the pronouns because what really matters is the homelessness.
Right.
But
It is culturally insensitive though to be like, let's throw out
those
the self
pronouns
things.
might be why they're homeless.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
that's
and
is
it-
a very
There could also be. I mean, here's the bottom line: social norms are not always positive. Okay, I wouldn't go to somebody who was beating their wives, which was perfectly acceptable in the 50s, and
Should
say
be. No, I'm
and say
joking.
maybe you should use a ruler instead of a yardstick.
the rule of thumb.
There's no reason for me to come to them with a half measure just because it's easier for them to take when they're the ones doing something incorrect.
But the frog self is incorrect.
Is it though?
Absolutely.
I mean, or
Because
is
you're-
having an opinion on someone else's life that doesn't even impact you incorrect?
No. because the only way that the only way we move through life is via communication, right? Because whether we like it or not, is words like we're doing here. We're trying to articulate our thoughts
Yeah.
in a meaningful way to communicate.
Yeah.
And if you come at me with shit outside of the norm, and then have,
Yeah.
and even if there's an attempt to try to do it, if there's a moral value placed on my inability to do it and or care about it, then what's happened is now.
Maybe you should ask why that moral value is there.
Well, why is it? I mean, that's the same thing. But see, that's the same thing
Because it
Christians did.
doesn't
it's
cost
God's
you-
fault.
But
It's
some-
always God's fault.
But again, that's the same thing as Christians did. You know, that's the same thing that evangelicals do.
In a way, except Christians will put you to the stake for it.
Not anymore.
Christians will.
I think we
burn
should
you
burn
down.
people at the stake, not for religious reasons. Like, you
Yeah.
don't put your grocery cart back in the carousel. I think we
that's a
should
good
start
one.
burning people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
I think we
good
should bring that back. Not on any religious basis, just on being a decent human fucking being.
Well, if you
Thinking
do
about
that,
someone else, right?
yeah,
The
if you-
social contract should matter. God damn it!
no, and I agree with that. Like one of the things I get in
You
trouble
agree
with.
with burning people?
No,
Over grocery
not burning
carts?
people, but I'll jump to that. But no, over grocery carts, no, because then I would never be at this podcast again and be all your fault. But
Hey, if you don't return your grocery cart, it was nice knowing you.
Well, no, for me, like
Fucking asshole.
I disagree with the notion that I think that everybody's worthy and deserving of civility, but not everybody is worthy and deserving of respect, because those are two things that are different. And I separate those categorically for a reason, which is that there are some
Let's
people.
bring this to a close. Well, no, I'm saying because the way that that's presented, it seems like respect. Yeah.
Well, then we just need to
continue your thought because
Yeah, yeah,
we're
yeah.
starting to go down a dark line there. So.
Well, that's why I believe in having the conversation and articulating it.
Okay.
And the reason why I say that is everyone is worthy and deserving of civility, because that is how civilization is built, meaning that no one should ever be attacked. No one should ever be accosted. No one should be harassed.
People should have health care.
No. No, I'm joking. I'm 100% disagree, actually, that people should have health care, but it's not a right. People should have it because it's the benefit of civility.
We're going to have another 3-hour podcast about that, but continue.
I know, and I'll be correct on that too. No, no, but what I mean by that is that there's a difference between respect and civility, because there are people in my life that are meaningful that I have respect for because of the things that they've done or brought to the table, or lives they've changed, or things that it involves doing something, and that's how respect is earned. Right? If you can be civil to everyone without being mean or cruel or disrespectful, but being respected is a fundamentally different thing because it requires action.
So I think if you're talking about like respecting someone's experience versus treating someone with respect, I think we're using that in two different ways. Because when you go out in public, you expect that your space is going to be respected, right? You expect that nobody's going to get in your space, that they're going to respect that that's your personal space.
Mm-hmm.
You expect that people aren't going to just walk up to you and start some crazy shit, because they will respect you enough not to do that to you. It's not just about civility, because civility is holding a door open for somebody. Civility is those things. That's not necessarily respecting somebody. That's just making it easier for a fellow member of the human species.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas respect is what we all expect out of one another. Respect is, I expect that if I were to come hang out with somebody, they're not going to attack me. They're not going to try and hug me if I didn't ask them to. They're not going to drug my drink.
Basic shit.
I expect a basic level of respect as a living human being. And so if that respect costs something, I could kind of understand then being like, okay, what's the deal here? But it doesn't cost anything to not care about somebody. It doesn't cost anything to respect someone. And if someone's upset because they're disrespecting somebody, and that's their choice, and it has a social cost, that sucks for you.
Yeah.
Like, I hate that for you, but we are who we are. If you don't like, let's say you don't like milk, and there's a bunch of people on your Facebook that are like, oh, how could you not like milk? Okay, yeah, you might be the person that's like, oh, well, I better get back in with the social group and tell them, no, I actually like milk. I was just kidding. You respect them more than you respect yourself. And so you go with that angle, okay. But it sounds to me like you're an individual who respects their own opinion on something strongly, and that's understandable. But I think that when we talk about civility versus respect, it would be civil and it would be respectful just to say, cool, I don't care. Are you a frog? Cool, I don't, whatever. I got questions.
Yeah.
But like,
can you hold your breath underwater for
Yeah,
7 minutes? Because we're going to get a killer blowjob in this pool.
like I got questions, but I don't really ultimately at the end of the day, when I go home and I lay down in my bed at the end of the night and I'm in my own head, I'm not sitting here thinking, I better go to Walmart and find Frog and tell them they better repent, motherfucker.
But they better.
It's not my concern.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the difference of terminology, right? Like, I use civility in the way that you use respect. And because I use respect in something that's earned versus civility, which you see respect as.
But you want to treat everybody with a certain level of respect until they're not worthy of it.
Yeah,
if you enter into respect as though it's something that someone has to earn first,
yeah,
we have a problem as a society. Because it's not civility my space.
Well,
It's not that they're civility my words. They're respecting my space. They're respecting my words. They're respecting my pronouns. They're not being civil. They're being respectful. That's why we use those words differently. Civil is tipping your hat to somebody as you cruise down the street. Respecting someone is them coming and saying, hey, do you have the time of day? And you treating them as a human being and going, yeah, actually it's 10:30. Cool. You see them as a person then. You respect them as a person then. Not as an object, not as a thing that's easily dismissed. They're a person. So the difference between being civil, because we're civil to pets, we're civil to animals. The civil thing is scooting the turtle along on the road when it's in front of our car and there's nobody behind us. That's not respecting the turtle. That's just hoping the turtle doesn't die. Right? Respecting the turtle would be, putting them in a place where it wouldn't happen again. It'd be helping them better themselves, helping them even just appreciate themselves. So I don't know. I think we got to be looking at respecting one another, because we're at this point now where we can excuse being afraid.
I can hear you breathe.
I breathe heavy when I'm turned on, David.
We can excuse being afraid for that person's not worthy. That person's not worthy of respect. They're not worthy of love. They're not worthy of trust. They're not worthy of understanding. Oh, you've got schizophrenia. Well, I'm not going to trust anything that you say on relationships. And that's something we can easily say to ourselves, right? We say, oh, I'm not going to trust this person. Even though schizophrenia doesn't mean you can't have loving relationships. It doesn't mean that you can't have lasting relationships or wonderful advice. It does mean that maybe you want to fact check some of that. Maybe you want to pick up a copy of People magazine and just run through, a little bit on what it means to talk to other people. Say, okay, this guy told me this. Doesn't mean you don't respect him.
Yeah.
If you respect him long enough to give him the time of day to get it out and say, what do you think about this? And then he gets it out and your brain goes, okay, so you've got schizophrenia. That is a concern. But the advice you gave might be some solid advice.
Yeah.
Double checking, asking with someone else when you don't know something, when you aren't sure, that's not disrespecting someone else. It's like I have people come to me all the time and they have trans family members and they're like, I just don't know how to talk about it. I say, it's really easy. Just be respectful.
Yeah.
Just love them as a person. If they say, hey, I'm he, cool. I'm she, cool. I'm they, cool. I'm frog, cool. Do you love them or not is the question. So when you come to me and you ask me for this advice, like I'm going to give you some sort of, Buddhist wisdom here or something, it's really that simple.
Yeah.
How much is it going to cost you to help them? Now, is it going to cost you your whole relationship? My mom gave up on helping me because she was afraid that it would cost her marriage.
God damn.
Yeah, she told me that straight up as a kid. Said, I'm sorry, I can't help you anymore with transition because I'm afraid I'll lose my marriage over it. And so she made her choice.
Was your father a more religious person? Okay.
Oh, yeah. And so she made her choice. And she's got to live with that choice. She's got to live the rest of her days with that choice. Now, she can go to him and complain and say, well, you put me in this terrible position. But really, at the end of the day, the choice was hers.
Yeah.
So, I've had people that it didn't cost them anything to respect me. They've known me for 15 minutes. And they're like, so, pronouns? And I give them, and they're like, cool. You want a beer? Sure. And we move on with our lives. But I've also had folks that were like, oh, I'm so into you because I'm bi-curious. And I'm, and there's all these assumptions that they make about the situation. They go into it thinking, okay, well, that's a dude, which means I must be bi-curious because I'm interested in that cock. And then it's on me to kind of explain that that's not the case.
Yeah.
We have these assumptions built up about things we don't understand. And again, they protect us from that fear. But
I think that comes from a binary mindset, though.
It does. It does.
people have so tightly tied gender and sexuality together.
It's because that's what it was till the 40s.
Yeah.
I mean, until
In my world, that was up till 2016, 17 is
Right.
when somebody finally sat down and was like, hey, these two are not like the exact same thing.
But again,
Like,
that's a difficulty in the issue is because it's the attempt from the pulpit to the pew, right? So that's what they use. It's like the congregation, the collegiate academia, passed down to the non-collegiate people. And so what you have is until sociology in 1940s, gender and biology were just terms that went back and forth, and they were used interchangeably. And it wasn't until sociologists looked at the behavior of the sexes and said, "Hey, do
this
you
was
know?"
the 40s?
Yeah,
of this?
1940s,
Wow.
yeah.
Okay.
And so then you notice, you're like, hey, well, do you never notice that women in China don't act like women in England? You notice that women in Saudi Arabia don't act like women in North Dakota? And then that's where the separation of the two, where they started to look at the behavior and cultural norms.
It took
facilitated.
60 fucking years for a country to catch on.
No. Again, it's
70.
it's
It takes a while.
it's pulpit to the pews, and then there became the mismatch, right? Because now, and this is what some of the right wing in their arguments, in the legitimacy of some of their arguments in the confusion is you can't say both. You cannot both say that sex and gender are not the same thing, except when you want it to be the same thing. And that's where a lot of the confusion comes, because you have people who will say, like in the conversation we were talking about Leah Thomas. And you were like, well, why don't you respect Leah? Because Leah fit into the stereotype. Leah jumped into the norms and then played a both sides. And that's why I
But
don't
Leah
like that.
was on HRT for a
Doesn't
solid
matter.
year beforehand. There's no scientific or medical reason to disqualify her.
Yeah.
They will straight up, even the doctors that work
Look
for the
them up.
the NCAA will tell you that as long as they're making NCAA standards, there's no biological issue with trans women in sports. The problem is that they have a wiener.
No, there's
That's
a fundamental
the problem
difference.
is that they've got a dick, and it's the same problem as in the bathroom. It's the same problem in the bedroom.
See, I'm going to have to push back on that.
Like
That addition to
it's
the-
because they don't see us as women.
Well, because they're using it biologically versus the gender norm. And so that's the...
So biologically, what am I?
Well,
I've got
what-
3 sex chromosomes and a dick.
Right.
So biologically, I'm intersex.
So then biologically you would be intersex.
Correct. But
Right.
to these people,
Right.
if I were to go
But
play
you
a
would lean,
sport,
but you would lean toward right. But just like we discussed, we discussed earlier in the intersex, right? It leans towards a particular one of those binary, and whether people like it or
Okay.
not, we can say that there's a
Would
variety.
you agree with that? It leans stronger one way or the other.
I think that we live in a society that values having the binary.
Yeah, 100%.
I think that we're more invested in having the binary.
I don't even think that's sexuality. It's
Then-
you either vote Republican or Democrat. You pick left or
See,
right. There's no
And so I think
binary culture.
I think that there's a lot of people involved in believing in this binary so hard that rather than admit that that's not actually the case, rather than admit that gender is a spectrum, okay, sex on one hand may be variations of 2 sets of chromosomes or 2 sets of genitals, but gender is not the same. And
Well-
we are not the ones that are conflating it back and forth. We're usually the ones that are explaining sex and gender aren't the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm a woman. It's not bi-curious because I'm a woman. It's not that you're straight leaning because I'm a woman,
But Leah Thomas,
but it's in their head that it is.
right? But Leah Thomas,
Yeah.
but that's exactly my point though, is that Leah went from gender to sex, and now is competing with females on a female team that was separated from biological sex.
So Leah Thomas is gendered female.
She's gendered a woman. She's biologically male
She doesn't have the hormone levels that a biological male would have.
because she took medication to alter that.
Correct.
But
So
her
they're
testosterone
altered.
level's still higher than all the other females on there.
Can you say that definitively?
Yeah, you can go through and look, because even after
I
HRT,
believe they did test her. She was under the threshold at one point, I believe.
Yeah, she's under the 5
So,
micromoles,
Yeah.
which most guys, just to put guys into perspective, 50, 100, 125. That's where they measure. So if we're talking of a difference of a couple of micromoles, okay, That's the difference between a cup of coffee that morning on performance.
Right, but what you're still saying, but notice again though,
You know, like, okay.
but now we're conflating
Did you
again.
wake up and have some eggs or
Right.
some spaghetti this morning?
But we're still conflating. We're still conflating sex and gender when it fits, and that's my argument. And that's the issue we have: is if we're going to say that gender norms and gender roles are a problem, and that we should be able to.
But sex isn't relative to sport.
Sex is a completely go look at the WNBA and then look at the NBA. Look at female boxing and male boxing. Look at I was in Taekwondo for years. There's
could say
nary
that.
a chick who's ever fought against me who didn't have a huge extreme weight and or muscle difference.
But they had that, and they were a woman, were they not?
The females that fought against me,
The
they're
females
not
that
allowed
fought
to fight against men because they'll get destroyed.
But I don't think that's the case for all folks. I see. Here's the thing about sports: if all human bodies were created equal, there would be no sports, because there would be no competition. There would be no variance or difference between people. So there'd be no reason for us to just chuck javelins or throw discuses or any of that, because we'd all get the same result.
But
We would all turn out the same way. If
But there's a
things like
curve.
if things like training didn't affect how well a person performed as an athlete in a sport, people wouldn't do it, right?
yes, but training for a male doing
a male
bench
with
presses.
a male with standard amounts of testosterone
Just-
and absolutely no medical differences. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and so that's what I mean by gender norms versus
But
sex
if,
norms.
if you've had
and so we
your
separate it.
hormones
But still,
adjusted-
but then you've altered it, and women are not allowed to take testosterone. Correct? They're not allowed to do that and
I mean,
compete.
trans males are. Trans males are absolutely allowed to take testosterone as long as they come under a certain category.
Right, but do you see how that would be considered inconsistent if cis females are not allowed to take testosterone, but trans males are? Then that becomes an inconsistency in our social norms,
I think
and
the
then we're also
inconsistency is
going.
expecting trans males to not take it and expecting trans females to definitely take it. For the longest time, nobody in sport checked whether or not trans males were even getting testosterone, because nobody cared if they won or not.
I think
It's
the
not
only
a-
way testosterone was measured is with steroids.
I mean,
It's like if you're
ultimately-
redlining on the high side,
Right.
testosterone. Okay,
So
now
like-
testosterone's in the
So
conversation.
like nobody was fighting on behalf of the trans males that were in sport, even though they were getting a raw deal, even though they were essentially getting screwed when being in competition with cis
Do you
males.
have names or time frames? Just
I couldn't. I don't know on that one.
There's
Okay.
one.
But they didn't actually have to take testosterone to
Yeah, there's one trans
Okay.
trans man who was on a high school wrestling, and
How
then got last year and got screwed because the school board said you have to compete on sex, which is like cool, but then because they said that, they said, well, sexually you're a female, but now you take testosterone, so you're cheating. And it was like, well, wait, you were totally cool with it 30 seconds ago.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean by consistency, because when we separated the sports, it was not separated by gender. It was separated by sex. They used the term gender because that was pre-sociological, even study of society.
It
And
was
so-
separated when we were expected that women would be the weaker sex
Well, they are. I mean, women are the weaker sex
in some categories.
in almost every physical category.
I think one of the easiest ways, easier analogies in this is I think MMA is the most concerning. And the reason why MMA is the most concerning is when it comes to bone density.
Mm-hmm.
I know once you go onto your transition meds, I believe hitting up estrogen starts to lessen your
Decrease.
bone density.
Yep, you're right.
So I think when it comes to MMA, that's an easier way to go with this conversation is at what point can the swimmer, how long is their treatment before everybody's happy? Is 1 year? I'm not a chemist. I'm not a doctor in any way. 1 year seems kind of short. Granted, I've never taken the hormones that you've taken. So enlighten me on a year. Do you think that's
I think that
enough
that's more than
time?
reasonable.
Okay.
I mean, and the reason for that is because when I take spironolactone, which is my testosterone blocker,
Can you spell that?
I know
Because I have no idea what the fuck you just said.
it's a testosterone blocker, but it's also used as like a blood pressure medication.
Okay.
The very first few weeks that you start taking that medication, you are exhausted.
Okay.
You are in bed or on the couch or on the floor almost all the time because your body has no energy. Your body has absolutely no energy. And so without that energy, you're exhausted. Male bodies tend to run with testosterone as a large portion of their energy resources.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you remove that physically from somebody, it exhausts them. And so eventually the body kind of recalibrates over the next month or so. It usually takes about a month or two. And you don't have that energy resource anymore. So you're not essentially functioning on it in the same way that someone who is cis male would be functioning on it. It's kind of like asking, is quitting steroids for a year long enough to be in sport? Probably, because a year without doing steroids, you might still have some side effects of the steroids used from before.
Mm.
But I think we can probably say that after a year, a person is generally considered clean, just as, a clean and sober thing. If they haven't relapsed in a year, they're doing pretty good. So it'd be one thing if Leah was, taking her T blockers one time to get just under the one test, but they test them multiple times. They test them several, and they actually freeze the stuff and keep it in case they're going to test it again in the future.
Well, it's crazy what they're testing down to now.
Yeah.
I don't know how familiar you are with UFC, but like what they popped John Jones with is the equivalent of dropping like a grain of salt in an Olympic-sized pool. They're able to get down to that much of that measurement.
Yeah, like
So-
mine is below 5. Technically, I would meet the standards because there's not enough testosterone in my body to provide the extra energy or the muscle growth. It would be twice as hard for someone like me. If I were to go work out right now in a gym, it'd be twice as hard for someone like me to build the same amount of muscle mass that you would build with the same amount of effort. So it's not just, is it their skeletal structure? Is it their muscular density? Is it any of this? I mean, technically, as a swimmer, having a dick makes you less hydrodynamic. So, if anything, she was at a disadvantage. But
So you're going on the assumption that she has used her transition meds ethically.
Yeah.
It sounds at one point you were suspicious of her use of transition. Is that where you're getting at? Is it possible that the athlete was attempting to abuse the system?
What am I getting at is purely the philosophical implications of the separation of the sexes in the sports, not the gender of the sports. And that's why, for me, either you're going to have an all-in, which like some people do, like NFL tried to do that and people were outraged about that. And I was like, why don't y'all shut the fuck up? They're literally doing exactly what you asked them to do. Or we have to acknowledge that there is a difference in the sexes and gender is a different thing. And both should be acknowledged. And as we use the term, if we're not going to use the term civilly, then they need to be respected in the way of these women are going to be at a perpetual disadvantage, especially if someone had gone through puberty and lived their life that way. And we are also separating the sexes. And if we're going to say that sex and gender is different, sports is not separated by gender. Sports is separated by sex. Title IX was separated for sex. Well, it was.
Did we hit a nerve?
No. Here's what I would say is that, again, that's coming from a time where women were the weaker sex. On almost all accounts, we were waifs. Oh, well, you can't stand being in the sun. You should go stand under an umbrella because you're going to get the vapors. Exactly. Like these decisions were made ages ago and not by the most educated folks. This is not something that's been updated in 200 years.
Well, but we can still see the difference between a man throwing bricks and a woman throwing bricks.
But can you see the difference between a man throwing bricks and a trans woman throwing bricks?
A trans woman throwing bricks? Depends.
You'd probably be able to see that difference. She wouldn't be able to hurl those bricks
but she could
as
probably hurl it farther than the most biological women if she went through.
So I think
and also I'm just saying again, sex versus gender. So we can get to someone
I think that the
transitioned.
differences between the two are so small, and we're giving them so much more leeway and weight than
I
they
think that's
actually.
what it is not to say you're uninformed, but I think culturally there is a subset where people are so uninformed that they assume the worst. Oh, this person is coming from a superior gender, and they're coming down to an inferior gender, and they're just gonna fucking run
But see,
the,
you're
run the
using,
board.
but you're using superior and inferior as opposed to just objectively different. Like it's not inferior that a woman is typically physically not as strong as a male. Pound for pound, if you go a 135-pound man versus a 135-pound woman, they're going to get up there and going to bench press. The dude is going to win 99% of the time.
What if you're throwing bricks?
throwing bricks, same thing. I mean, we can't deny that there are biological differences. And then that's the difficulty is instead of respecting the difference of gender and biology, we're going back and forth instead of acknowledging that they're different, because I'll never be able to have a baby. I'll never be able to get impregnated.
Maybe you could.
No.
They literally just
Haven't
had
you
two
seen
mice.
Schwarzenegger's movie?
So we just had two mice, male mice, that had a baby.
Mhm.
Designed in a lab.
Designed in a
put
lab.
together. So I mean,
Right, put
hypothetically, I
together.
could take your stem cells and mix them with someone else's
Right.
and make you a baby.
Yes, but what you've done now is you've taken something and you've used its scientific manipulation and you've altered the difference of the sex.
I mean, is scientific manipulation anything other than the natural order?
Yes.
Science doesn't create magic out of thin air. It's not like someone standing in the background and saying, "Oh, this is science," and that's the
No,
natural order. The things that happen in nature
Yeah.
are science.
Correct. But
So it's not that it's
but we can't deny that
defying
there's
God or anything.
No, it's not a religious conversation at all.
It's the same as like GMOs versus a breeding program.
right.
Okay, we bred plants for ages and ages and ages to encourage better growth or disease
Yield.
resistance or
Yeah.
whatever. That wasn't scientific. That was just us choosing which plants to have fuck each other.
Mhm.
Now you could say that that's scientific, and today people can get all butthurt about GMOs and be like, "Oh, it's got alien DNA," or "birds are real," or something.
Birds are drones.
And it's like, okay. So at what point does it become science, and what point is it witchcraft?
It's the same. Science
know.
is witchcraft.
Science is the natural
Said
order.
the
So
Louisiana educated kid.
No, I mean that because I believe the world has magic,
I
and
think-
science is magic defined.
I think the academics would probably say here that regardless of whether or not you gave birth or whether or not I took your genes and cloned them or whether or not I took your genes and mixed them with someone else's to make a baby, the academics would probably agree that you're still a parent.
Yes, but the academics would say that Jonathan Joubert will never go through pregnancy.
That's not what you said, though.
Well, how about this? I will never go through pregnancy.
Okay.
I will never gestate.
That's
I will,
a personal choice.
Well, I wish it weren't. I would totally take that on.
Where would you store a baby? In your ball sack?
I'm a
or-
fat dude.
If you could, though, would you
What?
get pregnant?
Oh, fuck no.
So,
Absolutely
but
not.
if science could do it for you,
Fuck no.
So still fuck no.
so see, that's a choice.
Right.
It's an understandable choice because it's a terrible experience
Yeah,
for what
watching
else.
my wife go through it. But no, and that's
I'll just go through the part where I'm extra horny and then
right.
fuck the
Let's
rest
get
of
to the
pregnancy.
porn. No.
So you can say you won't, or that nobody could ever yet.
I mean, through all things, science is possible.
Exactly. So,
Well, all things that are non-contradictory.
or through
science
science,
are
all
possible.
things are
If
possible.
All
if
things
I
that don't
took a-
self-contradict.
if I took a cell phone back to the time that they decided who plays what team on what sports, they would burn me at the stake for it. Okay, like let's just be honest.
That
here.
and the shopping cart.
They
thing.
didn't educate themselves during that time. They had assumptions.
Well, but I think
And
that's
so the
false.
assumption is that's the weaker sex. God told us so.
No.
Or so and so told us so.
No.
Or we're the men. And I mean, the patriarchy is one of those things
come
that's been
on.
existing for a very long
The
time.
patriarchy sucks.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying it because if
They
it were
do.
really a patriarchy, women wouldn't be at home not having to go fight wars and kill shit.
Because they're the weaker sex.
Well, they are the weaker sex. I think throwing it away to it was just people who believed in God or blah, 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 and pretending that none of these people had any observational data or any observation in reality is a foolish notion because we can see that there are physical differences in height.
These people
weight.
didn't even know about germs or miasma or space, or some of them probably didn't even know that the Earth was round because they didn't have an internet
They
to
knew the
go
Earth
check.
was round since the Greeks.
You think that all this information was just as easily and quickly spread across the world as it is today, and it's not. You have people that back in the day admitted things that were hundreds of years old. That's what they believed. They believed hundreds of year old traditions because they didn't get a public education. They didn't have a cell phone that they could check the internet on. They couldn't ask Google or Amazon or Bing, why do I have to be Bing search? They didn't have to ask any of those people. They didn't have those people to ask. They might have had their neighbor. They might have had the local doctor. They might have had a lawyer. When they hear from their grandfather who heard from their grandfather, oh, well, women are just, they belong in the house where no one's going to get hurt and they take care of the babies.
Yeah, but see, that's also a foolish notion too, because my grandmother straight that comes from, I think, a sexist point of view, because the fact of the matter is, women who stayed home during that era didn't stay home and just chill out and watch TV.
No, they didn't.
They killed the livestock. Anything
Yeah.
that came into their land, they straight murdered.
Yeah.
It was a compatible
And yet they're the
relationship.
ones that are, they're the ones that are the weaker sex here.
Well, they are.
We have all this verifiable, identifiable data that all these people have access to. If I was living in that time and I saw a woman doing all that, I'd be like, damn, she
But see-
is killing it.
Yeah. But being strong doesn't mean that someone else isn't stronger.
No, that's
Right?
right.
And it doesn't mean weak in a negative connotation. When I say weak, I mean physically. We're only talking about the physical
So when
capabilities.
you're a male, that doesn't mean that there isn't another male that's stronger. When you're a female, that doesn't mean that there's another female that isn't stronger. That's why, again, sports exists.
Correct, but
So-
it does mean that if I go jump
Yeah.
and the woman next to me goes jump, I will more than likely jump further because I have stronger muscles. Or when we bench press, I will more than likely bench press more than her.
And I would probably bench press the same
As me or as her?
as her.
Okay. But that
So should I be competing with you,
yes.
or should I be competing with her?
Well, it depends. Are you going to separate things from sex versus gender?
I mean, honestly, I think that things should be separated based on competition.
Well, that would be merit, but then all the chicks would lose.
I mean, then who was killing all the livestock back in the day? 'Cause
Well,
it
killing
sure as
livestock
hell
isn't
wasn't
putting
the
a-
husbands.
Right, yeah. But killing killing
know,
a goat
like-
isn't the same as kicking a ball 100 yards.
No, but here's the thing: these sports exist so that we can have personal gratification about the strengths of the human race,
Yeah.
so that we can say that, oh, this person hit the ball farther or ran faster or jumped the thing, when really we're putting value on something that doesn't actually matter. You know, fundamentally, if they can fly a paper kite farther than everyone else, congratulations, you can fly paper kites really well. Who cares?
Doesn't feed anybody.
It doesn't feed anyone. You know, if it was,
It's just our modern gladiator so we don't kill each other.
and again, if
But
we
hey,
wanted to talk
that
about
kite was advertising space, so we made
if we want,
Coca-Cola 30 cents.
that's fair. If we wanted to talk about sports as though we're actually concerned about competition, if that's what we want to discuss, that we're concerned about competition, where were all those people when trans males were basically getting screwed? Where they weren't taking testosterone, but they were still competing against men that had testosterone. You know, nobody was checking. Nobody was requiring it, but they require it of us. As of a trans woman, I'm required to block my testosterone in order to compete. Now, the people that are upset about that and are accusing trans women of coming in here and being cheaters in a supposed lesser sport, so they can get, what, half a trophy? Like, but they're accusing us of being cheaters when those same people who were saying, oh, I'm all for the integrity of the sport, they weren't saying shit for any of the trans males. They weren't coming in and saying, oh, the rules are unfair here, or they weren't saying, oh, this isn't right. They were basically waiting until they were upset. And you know who most of the people who are upset about trans women in sport are? Men.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of women who are pretty
Period.
pissed off.
I mean, we can say that, but like, find one.
Okay, the woman who lost against Leah was pretty pissed off about it. I mean, she got up there and is talking about it publicly now.
I mean, losing sucks.
Actually, she did say some
I hate
pretty
Right.
harsh shit.
Yeah, but I mean, but again, that's again, there is prejudice against males because of the fact that physically we are typically stronger than females.
But there's prejudice against trans women because we're assumed that we can't possibly be women.
Well,
You
it's
know,
because,
like we don't treat Leah Thomas with the same benefit of the doubt that we would treat her competitor with. We wouldn't. We would assume that Leah Thomas is here to cheat. We would assume that Leah Thomas isn't taking her meds.
well, that's
We
because
would-
Leah went from 462nd to first and breaking a national collegiate women's record.
Maybe she was training really well.
No, I think,
Like-
but see,
like-
this is where you're going into the community collective thing, right? Like you can be trans, and someone else in the community can still be a piece of shit who's trans, and the issue is
Yeah.
that is what those particular people are doing. They're going in there knowingly, like the two teens that competed in the track and field and made no transition. They didn't take any hormone blockers, and there were three. They were first and second place, and so two of the females lost their scholarships, and that does affect them, and that does affect parents who do care about it because now they got to pay out of pocket for a college degree that these two straight up boys did. They made
Oh, now.
what I mean.
Oh, now.
Yeah. What school
Well,
was this before?
You can look it up. They'll put the name out there.
What's the
I
fucking
look up the two. I mean, there's a case on it right now. They went to court over it.
the state? Like
Oh
what?
God, let me look it up because it was like fucking 8 months.
You got to
ago.
Google her on there too.
Oh, I do. I'll look it up.
Yeah.
Either way.
There is some hard conversations because she was, when she was swimming male, I
Yeah.
believe out of the top 20 or top 25.
Yeah.
But it is a difficult conversation to juxtapose when you go from that to like first, and just like not only first but a insanely dominant first, and that can't really be chalked up to training.
Like, it could be, though. Like, think of it this way.
It's never been
What
chopped.
We're
if
talking
you-
about like Phelps level swimming.
What if you knew that because of what you were doing, what if you knew that what you choose here may end your career, may put you in the national spotlight? Wouldn't you try to be the best you could, just like any athlete? Is that not what all athletes do, is they try to be their personal best? And so knowing that, okay, I'm about to transition, and she had to take a whole year off. She couldn't compete during that time. So she took the time off knowing this might kill her career, just like it would do to anyone else. Coming back knowing that you've got to come with everything you got because literally every single person out there is going to doubt you. Every single person in that audience, every sportscaster, everyone's going to assume she cheated, she intentionally did this, that it's just too much for her to be capable of as a human being.
Yeah.
But
And
is
these are all armchair
but-
quarterback. These are not doctors. These are not biologists that are saying this.
And that's the thing too, is where you're having two different professions, like, oh hey, it should be one way or the other. It's kind of like the ancient apocalypse thing, like we're
Right,
talking, is Egyptian historians are projecting masonry like
Yeah.
from like the Egyptian pyramids.
Yeah.
None of them are professional masons. So when you go talk to the masons, they're like, you can't do this in 25 fucking years. I know that like it's a wild tangent that like I just took us on, but I understand what you're saying.
yeah.
Is one thing is a Fox Sports analysis, being like, yeah, he jumped genders, and then you have another person's like, yeah, this person went through a shit ton of chemical therapy, testosterone, like all of this stuff. So
and still have to compete.
Right, but they still
they can't just take the training off.
yeah,
right, but the training to go from to again the biological difference is evident in the fact that when they moved from 462nd place to conquering the breaking the records. You can't just say that's training. You're giving grace to them because you're sympathetic. But the reality is that's not the case. And if we're going to be honest, it's the same thing if we pulled up
I
the
think
track
you're
and
not
field.
giving grace because you aren't.
No, I mean, look at it. If we can look at the numbers, if we
So
can look up track and field
I
runners.
think like I'm definitely on the side of the trans community, but like this person was able to beat state records
Yeah.
by fractions of minutes. We're talking like 20, 30 seconds. Like
Like Usain Bolt, right?
this is where
It happens. That's the thing, is these records get broken.
Never like that.
These records
no,
never
it's-
get broken like that for the first time. dozens of times.
Well, how much did Usain Bolt shave off of the world record when he did
Like
go?
Point something seconds, like 0.7 seconds.
That's my only hang up is if it was a close competition for first, I think we could chalk it up to training. It's just when we get to that significant of like eclipsing
I think that if we
records that's where things are. I don't know.
I understand. And what I would say is, I think that if we had a biologist,
That's the next thing we're gonna do. We're gonna do an OnlyFans biologist on the.
Hell yeah.
I think if we had a biologist or someone medical
Yeah.
saying those things, but so far,
None of them want to lose their license
all
on
of them
national
have-
television.
all of them have come out and said, here's the situation.
Yeah.
If you've had a year of HRT and your hormones are below this level, there is no reason fundamentally they should be treated physically any different.
Yeah, because that year you said it was not motivation, but the lack of energy.
Yeah. It's
I imagine
massive.
there's bone density loss, there's muscle loss, all that stuff.
Well, there's
so.
fat increase. Your fat content increases. Your skin gets
Because your body
thicker.
redistribute fat and like
Yeah.
all that stuff.
so like my skin's fluffy now.
Nice.
It's thicker than it used to be, and my muscles are not nearly as dense. My bones are not nearly as dense. Those changes happen very early on.
Okay.
It's the ones that take the longest are like tits. They can take between 3 and 5 years.
Wow.
But all the other changes.
See, I've been eating Taco Bell for about 15, so my tits are coming in real nice.
I support you in getting your tits, bro.
So
100%.
I'm into a solid B cup at this point. Huh?
Yeah.
I would also add she was not prevented from training during that time. She
It had
was,
to been tough going through fucking
Yeah.
hormone
I mean,
treatment and all that shit.
Yeah, I would not want to go out there and swim.
No.
But that said, she does get the advantage of having buoyant skin. The fat layer distribution does change things. So there's a lot of factors that we could look at to try and bridge that gap between the records.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of things we could point at.
Yeah.
But the problem is that we're not pointing at any of them. We're saying that because she was biologically male beforehand, this is the only answer.
Well,
Yeah.
and,
That
but-
it must be the fact that she was biologically male. It's not that she took steroids or it's not any of the other normal Occam's razor things.
Because-
it automatically puts the onus on that spotlight.
because
Yeah.
that's typically what evidence leads towards.
It also doesn't help. This is a societal hot button, like a motherfucker.
Of course,
right
and
now.
that's the problem.
Besides Trump being in jail, this is like number 2.
Right, but you have
That
the
shows how little we know about it.
Yeah.
We don't have an answer. We don't have someone that can point to a test and say, this is why Leah Thomas did better than everyone else.
I
We
mean-
don't have that person. We have people that assume they know the answer to that question.
Would you suggest
Yeah.
the evidence before of the preceding time versus the current time? I mean, and here's it happened in Connecticut. So it
Okay.
was 2 sophomores raced, and both came in first and second, and then the females lost their scholarship, and then they were suing because again the races were separated by the sexes, and so these 2 biological males said they were transgender. There is no evidence that they were trans before that, and that they made no social transitions either. And so their issue is, and we can't pretend that there aren't people in the world who would not do that.
I know there's pieces
There
of
are-
shit all over the world.
That's my point. And the issue is, the problem with that is it takes away from like what you're arguing, which is a very legitimate thing. Like, hey, if this person's on HRT and we can take a look at it and there's a giant span of difference, then maybe there's something there. But the problem is because no one's willing to bend either way and acknowledge that some people are fucked up everywhere, that we're going to have these 2 people and we're going to just give them the credit that they beat they entered into the sex differentiated sport and won, and these 2 girls now have lost their scholarships. And these 2, at this point in time, from everything that we can state, because there's no evidence of social and or medical transitioning, these 2 biological males have now taken these opportunities from these 2 biological females.
And so do we think that all trans people are like that?
Absolutely not.
Do we think
that's
that
the
trans
problem,
people
though.
don't deserve to compete because there are a couple of
This
dicks?
gives people though like, oh hey, this one story.
Yeah, because I mean, ultimately, you can point at tons of folks in baseball and football and other sports who've
Are you saying there's cheating in
I
football?
know,
Get the
right?
fuck out of here.
Shocker.
Yeah,
But like,
Patriots.
there's been
You go
cheating.
fuck yourself.
Those softballs.
Right.
Yeah. But no, like we can say that these things are happening,
Mhm.
and we can act shocked.
But we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater with one
we
story.
we can't do that, and we can't. Not only that, we can't just assume that everyone is that way.
Yeah.
We
And I
can't-
agree 100%.
But it's the
with
same
that.
conversation with the bathroom.
I
It's
don't-
one fucking molester shouldn't throw out the entire
No,
trans
I don't
community.
assume that every baseball player is on steroids.
But
Yeah.
I will.
I don't.
I think steroids in baseball would help. I want to get to the point they're
Make it less
so
fucking boring.
I want to get to the point they're so roided out they don't even need a baseball bat anymore. They just
They
fucking
slap it.
slap that ball into the fucking.
Fuck it. Look, I say let all drugs in sports, so it would
Yeah.
at least be way more
I
interesting.
mean, I say
Like
we
have
let-
the straight sports where it's like, all right, we're still testing, but then I want to see like the extreme football, extreme baseball, where all just
Right.
all drugs.
I would love to see a heroin football game. That
Me
would be
too. That'd be the
sick.
slowest fucking game ever.
It's
Oh.
the difference between asking ourselves, do we care about the competition, or do we not? Because if you don't care about the competition, if you just want to see the nuttiness,
I really don't give a
then
shit about
yeah,
swimming
like,
in college.
Seriously, who cares? But like, I hate the water. But like, if you want to see the maximum of human benefits,
do
Yeah.
steroids.
do steroids, do cocaine,
Right.
do whatever you want to do. Get out there and run 36
See,
miles.
there you go.
I fucking love
MSGA,
us.
make sports great again.
Yeah, seriously, like fuck. But if we want to sit here and rest on our laurels and say no, it's about the sanctity of the competition. It's about these poor girls that are getting cheated. Ask yourself how many trans girls don't get to play sports at all.
How many fat
How
kids
many-
don't get to play sports?
How many kids get cheated there because they're afraid of going into a locker room? Or they're afraid that if they do start sports, they're going to have half of the parents at the school writing a petition letter.
Yo, when did parents start giving this much of a shit?
They don't.
They
My
do.
parents just, as long as I wasn't failing, my parents could not care less.
Well, that
Now they're
sucks
like,
for you.
you're teaching my child out of some fucking book. It'd be like these, literally, they're clearing entire bookshelves in Florida because like most elementary schools, they bring in a bunch of books just for the kids to fuck around with.
Yeah.
They have to clear those books out. They're not even in the curriculum, but they have to get them out of the fucking. It's nuts.
Because they're afraid to talk about
Sex
basic
and
normal
slavery.
living.
Well,
with
but
kids.
you shouldn't be talking about sex to a fucking 6-year-old. I mean, you could talk about anatomy, but I mean, talking about
I don't think there's because one of the big things that Florida's hung up with is there's a book about a penguin baby having 2 dads or some shit like that.
Oh yeah.
That's a fact of life for some children.
yeah,
And then they're like, "Hey, get rid of this book." Like, how pushed to the side is that child?
yeah, that shit's too far. And again, that's the
No.
difficulty whenever people won't have the difficult conversations and deal with nuance.
Yeah.
And that's like when I went to the school I'm at, I straight up was like, I'm not fucking interested in any social fuckery. I just want my kid to learn life skills.
Yeah.
I don't care about that. I'll handle the social teaching in my household. And then as long as my kid is not striking someone and being cruel, then I don't care about any of that. Just don't be cruel and don't physically accost people. And how about learn to read and write? Because when you're trying to teach collegiate level academic shit to someone who just learned to wipe their ass 2 years ago, they're not going to do too well at understanding or comprehending what you're talking about. And what ends up happening is people who are ignorant, which all children are, there's a place for it, but when it comes to children, and as a person who's worked around kids most of my life, they don't understand those things. And it's not because they are
I don't know. At 12, I was pretty
but
understanding
you're
of
12
what I was seeing on HBO.
right, but 12 is fundamentally different than
But
5 and 6.
12
Yeah.
is lower than a lot of the brackets for teaching these kids things.
No, they said 3rd grade.
Yeah,
Or
like-
kindergarten to 3rd grade. For
Or
teaching sexuality and or gender norms. They
or
said
as
K to
appropriate.
3. Right.
And that's up to discretion. That's not
Well, that'll be the
defined. That's
parents.
just the open
Yeah.
circle jerk. So let's talk about that again. That trans kid that's at a school that wants to play sports. That's up to the parents, right? Because they're all going to write letters to the school when their kids get cheated, right? So, we're talking about someone's going to get cheated in this situation. That's the assumption that we're all going with, whether it's sports or being taught things. Because I tell you, those kids in Florida are getting cheated on an education. If you're only being handled the life skills, that's not much. You know, kids get their social skills from being around each other during those times. It's not about the teachers necessarily. The teachers are there to basically form like a foundation for the child to have a safe area they can be in. But most of the social stuff
Between the school shootings.
Most of the social stuff, let's be honest. We didn't get our social stuff from our parents.
Yeah.
When my dad came and told me how to act, I didn't take that with me. My husband out there, he told me a story about how his stepfather took away one of his Tool albums because it had a track on it titled "Hooker with a Penis," and now he married one.
That's fantastic.
So what I'm getting at is we don't learn those things from our parents. We learn those things from our friends. We didn't call people the R word or the F word because our parents thought it was a great idea. We said it because it got us in with the social groups of our friends, of our other kids. And, you know, it's practically free daycare at this point in Florida because they're not really teaching them anything.
It's basically they're keeping the kids alive.
Yeah, so I mean, like, I could see parents complaining about it, but at the same time, I promise you that 90% of the parents in Florida aren't equipped to teach kids anything.
Well, meth really deteriorates the adult brain.
Yeah, they're not
teach a kid basics.
If we leave it up to the parents in this case versus a society that grows and learns and is trying to train these kids to be their best selves rather than just what they think is acceptable, you know, we leave it up to the parents. The parents aren't going to care. They're only going to teach their kids the things that they already knew.
But
they're only going to teach those biases.
But-
And that's what Florida wants. Florida wants the biases being taught to the
We
kids.
indoctrinate our biases.
So do you think that perhaps your upbringing colors your view of that, of the way parents feel?
I mean, I had parents that tried to homeschool me
Right.
at one point in time, just like the lady on Jesus Camp you were talking about earlier, when she's like, "Oh, I'm going to keep my kids home because God didn't tell me to give them to these people all day, every day."
Mm-hmm.
And then she proceeds to teach these kids that evolution is wrong and that there is no climate change in that same clip.
Mm-hmm.
So I think as a society, we should be able to agree that she's not the best teacher for children because she is teaching them lies.
But couldn't we say that about most of the things in school?
Provable facts.
Well,
So when you start taking Rosa Parks out of history, we're not going to have to prove anything. The guys that are working on that right now have realized that they don't have to worry about being on the right side of history if nobody learns it.
Or just write your own
That's the problem, you know. So like, when it comes to what kids should learn, I think that we as a society, since it's going to be us as a society that deal with these kids, that collect taxes from these kids, that, you know, have to pay these kids Social Security. I think that if we as a society are expecting these children to grow up and become functional adults and actually move somewhere, we as a society should have a say in that. Parents don't own their children.
I disagree.
It's that they're not a product. They're a person. They're not an item. They're not an object. It's like when guys say they own their wives. Fuck no, they don't. That's a person right there. You wouldn't say that about your black friend, would you? You wouldn't say, "Oh, I own them." Fuck no, you wouldn't, because that shit is inappropriate. That shit is wrong and it's foul because it's turning a person into an object. And so the same people that want to say, "Oh, these kids have life from the moment of birth," want to turn and say they're just objects. They're not actually worth anything, and I own them.
No, but I'll say
So-
I'm responsible. I'm
What?
responsible for them, and society's broken, right? I mean, we've all sat here and complained about society.
We're all broken.
Well, the difficulty in that is when you have a large group of broken people asserting their norms upon people that are not broken. There are people, like I had to remind my buddy Juan, that whenever we walked around downtown in Southern Catholic Louisiana and we're wearing a shirt that says Satan's child or Jesus is a cunt, we don't have the right to be shocked when they look at us like we're fucking with them. You know what I mean? Like, you expect that when you break the norm, that people are going to look at you.
But some people want that shock.
Correct.
It's kind of like
but that's
you were
the difference
saying
is you got to
earlier.
own it, and that's the difference is we can't not own it, and that's my thing is I recognize that society is broken, and I definitely don't want a broken society having more influence over my kids than me because society is fucked up in the way.
I think that if I was going to ski, I'd see a skiing instructor. I think if I was going to drive, I would go have an instructor who knows something about driving teach me driving. I think if I was going to fire guns, I'd probably go to a gun range and find a gun instructor who could teach me about those things. I wouldn't go to McDonald's. I wouldn't go to the park and find some random stranger.
But that's what you do when you go to schools.
I wouldn't go to someone who thinks that they know what they're doing and doesn't. See, the thing about schools is they have to prove their accreditation. They have to go to school for the thing that they are educating these kids on. You don't. You don't. Nobody's forcing you to go to parent school to learn how to become a parent. So
It
you've
really
never
does need to be a parent school.
you've
I
never
agree.
been
I think that's
educated
nice.
or trained on these things, but we assume that because they're our child and we're the parent and we own them, that we have the right to tell them to do whatever we want.
Well, we have more of a right than society does.
Really, though?
Yeah,
Does
absolutely.
anyone have a right to the ownership of that person?
We have the responsibility and the duty and obligation to care for them.
Then
And
I would
that
think
is-
that giving them...
though, we should have a responsibility as a society to stay competitive on the global market. So, stuff like making sure that we have a bare minimum literacy rate,
Sure.
mathematical skills, all that stuff. Is if we're going to compete with the Chinese, the Russians, the fucking Iranians, the North Koreans, we have to have a minimal threshold with stuff. Where we start to get fucking weird, though, is when you're starting to put in social norms. Clearly in the deep south, like stuff with LGBTQ stuff, like you want to have a inclusive society. However, that goes up against all their bullshit. Is this weird thing is you have to, as a society, we definitely need to have functional adults that can actually compete on a global market. However, you start running into the stuff that I know you're getting at as I don't want values that are not in line with mine implanted into my child. So it's that tightrope that we have to.
So we're under the assumption still that someone can just come along and transform someone else's child into something. That I can come along and say, Santa's not real. And that will change the whole kid's life.
That will.
Yeah, it will. All of a sudden they'll know that Santa's not real and people have been lying to them this whole time.
Correct.
But it's not going to burn the house down.
No, but
You know,
it does. As a person who never told my kid, I always told my kids that there was no Santa and blah blah blah, and I
Yeah.
didn't let them do any kind of religious study until they got old enough to comprehend it. My issue with that is saying that someone's going to walk up to my kid and say, "Oh, you're going to be whatever," and they're going to do it is magical thinking. However,
is.
when we go into schools and your child is put, and I'll just say schools are mostly indoctrination camps. Whenever
Ever been cool to listen to a teacher? I don't remember the last time that was the case.
no, but the teachers,
Indoctrination camp.
but teachers
is-
are in positions of authority.
Yeah.
And do have, and whether like we not, like you said, our friends have influence and
Yeah.
these teachers have influence. And to deny that and pretend that it doesn't exist and that they can't maneuver a kid's thinking in a way, just like I don't want them to teach my kid racism. I don't want them to teach Christianity or religion either. I want them to teach them how to function in the world and things that are age relevant. And the
But
problem
does
is
that not include functioning with other people?
it
They've
kids
got to
don't think-
understand these other people in order to be able to function with
But-
them. If you
but-
don't know what a trans person even is because no one's allowed to tell you what that person is, then the very first time that you run into that person, you are not prepared.
Yeah, but kids don't care about that.
But kids will care about that when they're an 18-year-old and all of a sudden they're not prepared.
Well,
I
that's
had
different than
a
being
flavor of that
that's 16.
conversation is I had that meant that argument back in like the 90s when profanity is a big thing. Is if profanity is exposed to your child when they're in fucking college, they're gonna have a culture shock. Now let's rewind that into the LGBTQ thing. Like, holy shit. Like, yeah, you need to walk that person, that child, to this. Yeah, maybe dropping that a little too early socially in their head. Who knows?
Well, it just
But
messes them up
that's
because
also what's weird is like that's a fact of somebody's life. You knew at what age?
3.
3.
It was worth a talking.
She's
at that
handling it. Why can't a first grader at least be taught, hey, this is also out there?
because it's
And-
because again at that point children are still develop their own social dichotomies, and they don't
And
consider.
hers is also not connected to sexuality.
Correct.
It's just identity.
Correct.
And,
And
I
that's
think
the
that's
difference
the
is-
same thing because we're not able to divide
because kids
gender
don't.
and sexuality.
If you dress weird, then you're just the kid that dresses. And I was the kid that dressed fucking weird. I wore sweatpants way too long in my school, whatever, and that's part of it.
Dude still wears a trench coat in 2023.
Yeah, bro.
Fucking weird.
I mean, we can't make kids gay.
No,
You
of course
can't
not.
make kids trans.
But
So
to
if we're
say that
under-
no, don't say gay bill is fucking insane. It's like that's literally a part of somebody's life, and then another person has to be
well, and
completely not exposed to that being.
Well, and I
then
think
if
that's
these
a-
kids leave Florida, they're screwed. You know, if they go to another state like California, how are they going to function? How are they even going to operate? You know, they're not being prepared.
Yes,
Yeah.
but in that bill, to be fair, on that bill, as much as I don't like blech, but to be fair, they're only saying K through 3rd grade, and then after that
As
you can.
appropriate.
As
Right.
of right now,
Well,
but they're now
correct.
floating
So,
legislation
yeah,
to have
I
all
don't-
fucking public schools up till graduation in high school.
Oh,
Well,
even
that's just
even
stupid.
colleges.
Yeah,
Right.
they got their
DeSantis is
foot in the
coming
door.
after
Now they're going to take the whole
colleges.
fucking world.
And that was one of the reasons why, again, I don't think that society has more of a right to teach my kids, because some of those societies have fucking stupid ass rules. Like I easily told my kids, whenever
We're breaking this down into multiple episodes.
Yeah, we are.
We're
So it's
flirting
gonna
with almost 4
fuck
fucking
yeah, we
hours.
needed that midi. This is good talk. This is good mouth right here. This is great
I
mouth.
mean, as long as we're
Interesting.
addressing the fact that kids don't live with their parents their whole lives,
Yeah.
and kids are not just
You got to
like,
prepare for kids outside of those walls.
Mhm.
just like my husband with his Tool album. Okay, you can try to shape a kid however you want and treat them as though they're some sort of object to mold, like they're a model car or they're your pet project out in the back. And as long as we treat children as though we're looking at them like an object for us to manipulate, and we are worried that someone else is manipulating them before we can manipulate them, we're not looking at the fact that they're probably not that susceptible to manipulation.
Oh, they are.
When I was a kid, my parents tried literally everything, everything to get me to be a dude. Everything. Now, if I was susceptible to manipulation, I'd have bought it.
Right. Well,
If I was not genuinely trans, I'd have bought it.
No.
I'm not trans because my super conservative Jehovah's Witness parents had me bump into the wrong person at a gas station.
right. And
You
I
know.
think that's the part, is that those are the people that fear those things are the ones that attempt to go through the life easily, right? Like we talked about categorizing. They just want to categorize things to go through it easy, and some people are bad at it and they're just awful. But see, the same thing is coming from where I came from. The reason I homeschooled was because I wanted to avoid all of that. Like I wanted to avoid the religious implications that came with being in our area. I wanted to avoid the
But less than 20% of the homeschools in America are non-religious.
I was one of them.
God damn.
Yeah.
Like less than 20%.
Yeah.
So, turning to homeschooling because it avoids religion is not the way most people do it.
No, but it wasn't just religion.
20
Also,
fucking
it was
20%. So the people that are homeschooling are like that lady from Jesus Camp. Where she's like, society didn't give me my kids to raise. And then she goes and she literally teaches these kids that the earth was made in 6,000 years
right.
total. And these kids grow up thinking
Have
that
you
that is
read
the
those
truth.
textbooks? Somewhere in this house, I
Hey,
think I still have the
hey,
textbook from a
Not only was I read them, I almost got fired because when I worked at a youth center, they told me that I had to teach these kids that dinosaurs and humans existed at the same time because they came from a school called Westminster. And I
You didn't know the Flintstones was a documentary series?
yeah. And I straight up told the director, I was like, I'm not going to do that. And then one kid was like, well, what do you mean? And I walked him outside and I said, yo, you see that tree? And he's like, yeah. I was like, take this stick and go hit it. And he ran over there and he hit it. And I was like, that's the size of a dinosaur. How much damage did you do? And he's like, nothing. I was like, good. That's what would happen if an apex predator came into your fucking house. You really think that we hung out with apex predators? Sorry, little kid. We didn't do that.
Well,
But-
good luck
but-
having the 75 million years between you and humans, though.
Right.
So.
But I would say the parents at the school were probably like, "Hey, what are you doing teaching my kids evolution? What are you doing? I didn't give you my kids to raise so that you could distort their viewpoints
Yeah.
at will."
Which is insane because there's evidence all over the place for evolution.
But see, that's why when it comes to parents having these parents' rights bills, it's not about the trans parents or the gay parents, the kids that are variants. Those aren't the upset parents. The upset parents are the ones that are afraid that they won't be able to manipulate their kids before the world can.
Correct, because the world is fucked up.
But here's the thing. Maybe the world's not manipulating them at all. Maybe teaching someone evolution and saying, "Hey, walk up to this tree. Do you think we really lived with that?" is the right thing to do. Okay? Maybe those parents have it wrong. And maybe we shouldn't be teaching kids, "Oh, if you look on the bottom, it says made in China, 2003. No, the world was not made in 6,000 years. Okay? None of the stuff in that book actually happened except for a few historical events that were well documented. And we're teaching this as though it is reality.
yeah.
You know, we teach these kids, and these kids are malleable. They're easily manipulated, but they're not necessarily gullible. But if you only give them one answer to
They
choose from,
Turn gullible.
they can turn gullible. You know, if you say that sky is green and everyone that disagrees with you is wrong,
They're all
Then-
pedophiles. The ones
then-
that don't agree that's
that's how the kid will they'll either deny that or they'll grow up with it. Some kids will deny it. They'll say, "Well, maybe I shouldn't trust my parents because I've seen how much they drink on the weekends."
And they told me about Santa Claus.
Or maybe
It's so weird that everyone they don't agree with is a pedophile.
maybe they're schizophrenics. Maybe I shouldn't agree with them because
See?
of that. So
That's the thing that drives
Throw
me
their
nuts
opinions
now
out.
about the right is if I don't agree with you, you're an instant pedophile on anything. It's like once you get to that level of evil, you can't.
you can't really
There's
step
nothing
over that.
above pedophile.
That's why they say it. It's
Yeah, it's the
But
same
the
reason
thing
they
is, it's a
call it-
cry wolf situation.
But
So
it's
we
the-
run into an actual pedophile.
Yeah.
Well, they all work on that side.
It's fucking wild.
Like you see, there was a dude very recently. I'm sure you can Google it yourself. Republican.
Florida.
Wasn't. I don't think it was Florida. It might have been Florida. But he was trafficking teenage girls.
Yeah, it was Florida. Matt Gates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not Matt Gates. He was actually an advisor for, was it Harry Hogan? He was.
Does that ring a bell?
I don't know, but I know Pete Buttigieg's dude got caught with some child porn too. So everybody fucks kids when it comes to politics because they're disgusting people and they got money. And people with money and boredom do stupid shit.
So
Burn it all down.
There's a seed of truth
Edit.
in that one.
Edit it. You edit it out because I'm gonna say it. Burn it all down.
All right, so that concludes the third hour.
all right.
Does anybody have to pee? Because
I have to
we're
pee.
about to get into the adult industry part of
Fuck
this.
yeah,
So we're
I
all
can't
gonna
wait.
fucking pee.
I can't
I
wait.
gotta pee.
But yeah, just hit the off button.
Yeah, look here. Look, I'll go to you and then we'll pause. Can we pause? Let's hit stop or off. What am I doing?
Whatever's under the record.
Stop.
I think there's a stop button.